man, Jon Rua. Thank you for being here, bro. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to see you, dude.
Good to see you too, man. We've been talking even before this is why I wanted to talk to you about quarantine, art, live performances, growth. Like we just, we vibe in that way. And at a time where there's not much that artists can do in person, you have been creating nonstop. And for y'all who don't know, Jon's been in like 5 Broadway shows, including In the Heights and Hamilton and Hands on a Hard Body. He's choreographed for Madison Square Garden, Fish at Madison Square Garden. So you've done a lot live. And I feel like at a time where there's like morale is down and we're like, what do we do next? You, sir, are creating like nonstop. How are you doing that?
Okay, well, thank you, number one. First and foremost, to be able to be recognized by someone I respect highly is the reason I kind of do this whole thing. To be fair, like I have different reasons I've come to in contact with and awareness of, but big reason is getting respect or touching people who move me. And then that's speaking to sort of the mirror effect of the energy you put out in the world and you hope to receive as well. That being said, the first 3 days, maybe the first 4 days, I didn't create at all. I actually came to this real quick conflict of interest. The fact that my identity of being a creator was being completely questioned because I had no interest. And it wasn't because I didn't really have an interest. It's because of what creating was equating to me. And creating in New York, especially as an actor, choreographer, singer, dancer, all these things, who aspires to achieve things, and the road is quite turbulent. When that's happening, your creating thing gets connected to a result, or maybe an expectation, or perhaps exhaustion. So I was just exhausted. I was like, I'm so exhausted from the hustle that it is. So it became like I was equating creating to seeing something out of it in the world, as opposed to seeing something out of it for me and for those I want to move. And maybe that personal will become universal. So like the first 3 days, I understand what people are going through. I wasn't, it didn't speak to me. I was frustrated. I was like, I don't want to do this. Man, what is the point of doing this? No one cares anyway. No one's watching anyway. No one is answering. Like a lot of the real truth of this is frustrating because I make it and no one cares unless I'm like, at the end of my thing, it says bad robot or something. At the end of my thing, it says Paramount. You know what I mean? Like no one really, or no one has a time. And I said, you know what? After 3 or 4 days of like serious Buddha, holistic awareness, I said, I didn't say anything. My imagination kept circulating. And I said, man, if I don't do this, it's not giving justice to all the people who can't do it. All those people who perhaps are in hospitals or have been affected. I put myself in that situation really quickly. What if I was having trouble breathing? What if I couldn't even keep the food I'm eating down?
Wow.
I would be really heated. I'd be really mad. And then be like, damn, I wish my lazy ass would have done something. Now, I'm not calling people lazy by any means. I just meant...
Sure. I hear you. I know.
By me. All I meant was I started asking myself, the moments I'm not creating, am I addressing why I'm not? Or am I simply throwing my arms up in the air saying, things are hard, I guess I won't.
You know what? That's super interesting. And I feel like there's a dance between allowing yourself to be and just create, or just feel the things that you're feeling in those 3 days, and then having some artistic expectation of yourself? Like, when do you press the gas? So
I,
like
I,
that dance is really interesting for a lot of people.
you know what? For me, it's interesting when I really speak about it. I put the gas the moments that I would question myself as if I'm even capable. The moment that I found like doubt, like, oh, how many projects have I went out for that I didn't get? Or how many times have I imagined something and didn't follow through on it, and then see another venture and I go, wait a second, I understood that like 6 years ago and that's coming out now. I'm like, wait a second, all that can happen is I make something, it doesn't turn out how I desire, but at least I know I attempted.
Mm.
So I sort of go with that immediately. The minute that I have a, man, that might not be good, I just do it anyway. I got nothing to lose. It's almost like fair game now to balance out and unrig uh, the potential of talent out there due to the fact that everyone's on equal playing ground in a sense that we're all sort of quarantined and social distance, right? You can't, I don't think that you can fake the art. You can't fake the quality, right?
Right.
So here,
Right.
if people have the attention span, no matter what I create probably has more of a chance of being appreciated or even witnessed than perhaps in a very saturated mobile hustle world.
I love that. I want to talk about what you're creating though, because after those 3 days when you're like, whoa, the shock of it, right?
I
What's
mean, and I'll be
happening?
real, like those 3 days were 3 days, but I spent a month without dancing. Not because I didn't want to dance,
Yeah.
because I was like, maybe 3 weeks, but I'm bugging. Probably like 2 weeks. It wasn't a month. It was like 2 weeks.
Yeah. I hear you.
I was just tired. I was tired. So then I was about to go for a run, and I put a song on, and like I think it was Bone Thugs and Harmony. No, it was Mob Deep, and I was like, and I did something that I never do in my life. I hate dancing in my house. For people who've ever watched, I don't like it. I actually shut my house down so that I would keep the hustle out of my house because I don't know how to stop working. So now I didn't know how to dance in my house. And I just moved everything out the way and I danced for like 2-3 hours straight. Point being, those 3 days were a serious questioning of, am I even going to continue my love for my art? And then
Wow.
within a week or two, I was like, no, man, this is my purpose.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
then
it sounds like you really got tapped back into like a big why.
a big
Like you
why.
had to really, because I feel you on that. Like for literally the first 2 weeks, I was just kind of like shell shocked. I just didn't feel like, and I've talked to other creators, like they were in the middle of creating things, and it's like I don't feel like talking about that. Like I just needed a second. But I want to talk about some of the things that you are creating because, you know, QGems or quarantine gems, where you're basically,
Yeah.
I want you to explain in your words, but just this incredible anthology of what it's like to live in a quarantine, and they're hilarious. You need to everybody needs to go check these out right now. But the moment where you put the song on, the Bone Thugs, the Mob Deep, and you're like, oh, I'm getting back to myself, or I'm gonna pick up the pen, I'm gonna write this, I'm gonna type up that first line for the script.
It actually
You
made
know,
me not just get back to myself, it made me value something more.
hmm,
It was me realizing just how powerful I am in myself. Like I said, wait a second. I, when you come into question with the things that you love and the doing of those things,
hmm.
and you realize you love it more than the fear of failing at it,
Woo!
then there's all the negative noise becomes positive channeled noise, and then you just keep streamlining. And so what happened was the minute I started dancing, I fell into the flow even more. I fell into
This has been a growth moment. That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off
no,
there,
no,
but
go
like
ahead.
that, it's like you found the growth in this entire situation. Like this moment, that's what this is for. for Jon Rua, it was about you needed to ask some deep questions about you and your art and your relationship between the.
And for those who feel like they've done that before, I venture to say that I did some of that before because I was beat up and exhausted from doing 8 shows a week, from not stopping, from continuing to wear as many hats as possible, from seeing opportunities. In other words, if people do know me, I am pretty relentless, right? But that relentlessness, when you don't see a door or a gateway, can be a burden, can be heavy. And what happened during the quarantine was me going, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And yet at the same time, it made me go, the fact that I already knew prior to quarantine that I was creating, and I was doing all these things, and there were moments where I go, I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to keep doing it. There was a knowing that came to be in that trying and doing during the quarantine. I was like, I still want to do this. I still want to create. So now I know more than ever, it was not really about ego. Sure, I felt burdened. Sure, I was tired, but it was more about I will not let the gift or the talents or the hard work I've put into myself and what I'm trying to offer the world be compromised by a business that at times people slip through the cracks or they're seen. What will you do during the times that you're not being seen? Will the tree that falls in the forest matter even if no one's there? And I'm going to make sure the echo of my fall is so goddamn loud you don't have to be there.
Hey.
You're going to be like, something just happened. I don't know what that is, but there's mad leaves in the air, and they're pretty. And so I'm just saying that's sort of the discovery. It's like, for those of you who feel, oh, man, I'm just swamped. I said, dude, I was too. Or, oh, man, I don't know how to broach forward. It's like you have to ask yourself, what are you trying to offer the world? And does that exist without someone telling you how to do that or to do it? Can you do that? And so that's why I said I started doing that before the quarantine. And it gets heavy. It's hard. You don't know if it's you're creating stuff that serves. And then during the quarantine, all the questions went away. I said, I do not care. I almost did not care. I was like, that's it. I'm just going to do it with complete conviction. And so when the QGems came up, I remember saying, man, who am I to write? Who am I to write? And then I said, I'm sure some other, who am I not to write? Who am I not to
That's
write?
right. I feel like what you're talking about is something deeper than just like, oh, I like to entertain, I like to dance, I like to act, I want to do that. This is something that you realized that you couldn't do without. But you've been asking yourself these questions for a while. And I think that's a really big, look, right now we've got people that are graduating from college with an arts degree, music degrees, designers that literally, they're just like looking into a landscape and seeing, but the foundation is not there. The platform is not there. And I think what's a testament to what you're doing right now is we've gotten to a place where that's a given. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
Now what?
Now what?
And, I want to talk about, grit for a second, because, you've got something that you've created a while back called TheGrit. And, I've talked about that growth life and grow with that. And I wanted to, we talked a little bit about how these things overlap, but this, the awareness to like create in the midst of adversity is not new for artists,
No.
But now we're faced with something, much bigger. But can you talk about like the grit and what that means to you, as a creator?
So this is what I'll say, and I'll go back to the gems in a bit, but I'm going to start with the grit and how that leads into the gems. So the grit for me was something that I had to sort of coin myself or coin whatever I produce, because I knew that I was rare, and I didn't know why. I was like raw, rare, like a red steak. For those who don't eat meat, seeds of a plant, whatever, blossoming, whatever. All I know is I was raw, I was rare. And I said, I'm somewhere in a world where I'm creating stuff. but I'm not a Fosse. Blah, blah, blah. Information, energy. What's the grit? I said the one thing I strive to do at all times is trigger human emotion. So that was actually the first part. The word grit was secondary. THE means trigger human emotion, and the grit. Grit is perseverance in the midst of any obstacles, overcoming plateaus, continuing onward. This sort of energy has kept being a part of my life from the get, even the fact of when I started in the business. That highly informs why the QGems were created, which inevitably I call them the QGems because Q, I'm always planting seeds. It's a gem, whether people catch it or not. Q is actually for CUE as well as the word quarantine, as the letter Q. Q the next gem. Every single thing is a comedy or a dark comedy or just a commentary, and what it really is do you find the gems within that speak truth, even if at times, or at least probe a question or probe something that you want to investigate yourself. I was like, in the habit with the grit, then no one was, and I don't mean this in an offensive fashion, inevitably I found out the only source of complete reliability that I ever had was me. So I said, all right, I'm going to make these QGems by myself. So I did the whole thing by myself. I've been doing it by myself. Granted, I don't have Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, but I was like, I'm going to make it look dope. And
no, I mean, you've let me in on your creative process with some of these videos that you're making. You're setting up the tripod, you're finding the angles, you're playing different characters. You're getting in there after hours of shooting in software and just splicing, cutting up. That's not something you trained for.
No, I something I committed to.
But what I love is that, your art was too important for collaboration or for a season, for anything to get in the way.
Right.
Like, that's something you had to do. I want to talk about QGems a little bit more, but like one thing we talked about, before this was MJ and The Last Dance, which is like, wow. But just like the, Michael Jordan pushing through adversity.
Well, it's funny you bring this up.
Yeah.
Because I keep thinking to myself, when I was watching The Last Dance, for those of you who don't know, it was the best era. No, I'm not trying to speak my age. I just mean it was an era of grit. It was an era of people pushing through adversity. And I said, what was it with Michael? What was his obsession with competition? And I said, maybe, perhaps, his obsession with competition was, whether he knew it or not, how he maintained his high level of presence at all times. It's where he knew he could harness it the most, and so he knew it was too precious. Also, it wasn't his obsessions for winning. It was his obsession to be great. And a lot of us go, man, maybe why should I even relate to an MJ? I'm like, well, no, I have a desire to be great in a world that we get caught up with winning or losing. It's a reality. So how do I continue to be great? So when I watch MJ, I was thinking to myself, why am I having these questions? Why am I like, it's never enough for you, MJ? As an artist, we have to find out balance or we're going to drive ourselves insane. He did not. And so I said, what can I learn from him? Not like at all costs. More importantly, his commitment to greatness at no matter what. And
yes,
that's what I really took from it.
Yeah, that's one of my big takeaways too. I think there's a great, how can I apply like what MJ did artistically? And there's a quote in there, I forgot who said this, but he said they said it wasn't about him winning or losing. It actually, he would make things up in his mind so that he could keep going. Whether it be a feud with someone else, with a teammate, with a coaching staff, whatever it was, because he was so concerned about being great, it would never even cross his mind whether the shot wouldn't go in. And I think, well, wow, what if we can get to that artistic place where we can create without even an expectation of, of course we want to win, we want to win and we got to eat. But like, if we could create with the abandon where it's not about this audience seeing it, it's not about this producer seeing it, it's not about getting picked up for anything, how we could create our unique expressions of art could be monumental. And if we think about, and I like the people that inspire us the most, that's how they created.
Mm-hmm.
The MJs,
Yeah.
the Da Vinci's, you know, to and anyone in music, you know, it's like they had their own expression that they were just held onto.
Well, there's also something like, I don't know if you recall, but perhaps Jordan couldn't be Jordan, right? If those he respected didn't want to, if he needed the respect of those, I think it was looking like, I'm going to beat you so you understand what's going on, or I need to play against Isaiah. I need to play against the Celtics. I need to play against these people. And one time I texted you and I was like, man, I don't care if I'm a Pippen or a LeBron. I'm just trying to be in a position to play with people I respect. And so that being said, I don't mean to cut you off.
Please.
My QGems are, I don't have an expectation. Any dance I make, I don't have expectation as much as I have a desire that if I share like this one little clip with Josh Henry, is this shit going to make this guy laugh? And if I get Josh Henry to laugh or be moved, then I don't need 7,000 people because Josh is that important to me, sort of thing. And if 7,000 people pick up on it, cool. But I don't think MJ, like, and they say MJ would go out there to show. I don't think MJ knew the fans were there, but he wasn't doing it for the fans. He was doing it to be an example for himself and if the fans picked up on it, but he was doing that to be with the greats.
We do that. We create a lot of times for the glory of our peers. You know what I mean? Like, we really do that. And I feel like, gosh, I want to go back. I'm going to edit this out because I really want to like get something that you just said. Were you talking about collaboration, you know? And I think the importance of collaboration right now artistically is massive. I mean, in the midst of this quarantine, you commented on something I posted on Instagram that was about LeBron and his teammates picking each other up, right? I posted a video about, you know, making your teammates better, and you commented, and I something about that really struck me. And so through that, we sort of picked, you know, we've known each other for years, like off Broadway in the Heights, 2006.
I mean, you came to the opening of Hardbody. You were my guest for the opening of Hardbody.
Yeah, man. And I remember, like, so we go way back, and, you know,
off Broadway in the Heights.
We started to like really talk about collaboration, and we literally just jumped right back in.
Oh yeah.
And so like the importance of collaboration right now, and I haven't seen you in a long time, but you sent me a script. I gave you feedback on the script. You know, I've sent you a song. You gave me feedback on the song. One of your QGems scripts. You were like, "Yo, how does this timing work?" And I get asked a question a lot right now. Maybe you do too. Maybe online for kids that just graduated. Kids, I'm like 35, calling them kids, but like people that just graduated from school or maybe even been in the business for 10 years. Like, what are you doing to like reach out to collaborate with folks? I see you've got other people in your videos.
I'll be honest.
Is it a straight ask?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, you know what? Especially as a choreographer, I realized very quickly my director abilities. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to reach out to people I'm interested in. And some of them get taken back. Some of them are intrigued. Some of them perhaps are intimidated. I don't know if that's an appropriate word, but it feels as if they're not in a position to want to. So to be fair, something you said earlier before was amazing. The importance of my art trumped, let me use a different word. The importance of my art overcame the desire of commitment of collaboration. I had to do it regardless. Then collaboration is so important. So when you started being back and forth with me, I was like, this is a gem. And then I find when other people are available or not available, you either have to, I ask people, other actors to get involved. And if they're ready to play, cool. If they're not, I train other ones. I'm just like, I have to see this through. And for me, how do I reach out? I either message them, text them, call them, tell them the scenario. Some of them have a deep respect from previous work. Some of them are completely new to me, and I just take a shot in the dark. And I think it all goes back to grit, as opposed to perhaps getting a representative to reach out, which, I don't know, for me, it doesn't feel as authentic.
It can be a little impersonal sometimes.
Yeah. And yet the impersonal sometimes throws people like, what is this supposed to mean? It's like, dude, I'm just DMing you to do a video. That's it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So honestly, it's been mostly hit, but definitely many misses in my attempts to try to get collaboration. And so if you see in my QGems, there are many times I'm improvising with myself because I'm like,
you know what? And I appreciate that so much. And I feel like, honestly, that's where you showed me some stuff. I'm like, yo, this is literally a gem right now. You've got incredible timing comedically, but like you're improvising based on what you think, how you think you would react. And I'm like, this is incredible. And to go back to MJ, Michael Jordan, for a second, he was like, I wanted to win. I was going to find a way. Whether it was, but he also knew, whether I had to do it myself, he would take over game, he wouldn't pass. But he also knew that he needed a Pippen. He knew he needed a Steve Kerr. You've been in Hamilton. You've been in 5+ Broadway shows. You've choreographed for Madison Square Garden.
I'll just fix and say 4, so people don't think I'm trying to bite off. 4.
Oh, my bad. 4.
I probably could have been in 5. I just made different choices.
Sorry. Well, but my point is, like, you have been super high, in artistically, and you're still having these conversations with yourself, questioning why you're doing it, questioning if you need someone else to do it, DMing, emailing. So I think what you're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, was like your why artistically is important. Collaboration is super important. But at the end of the day, your art is too important to sit on it.
Right.
Through your feelings. And I think it's important because a lot of people right now, they're like, yeah, I know, but like, you're Superman, Jon. You know what I mean? Like you've been hustling for a minute since 2006. Like you knew what the hustle was. But for all of y'all, and I have to say this, because you're my boy, but I remember meeting you. You didn't know what musicals were about. You didn't know what you knew how to dance. You were
not the real deal. I did not know
the playwriting. Being a principal in a huge show. Being able to choreograph for a place like Madison Square Garden. Those are things you grew into. Writing scripts, editing, your comedic timing. You've taken classes. So this is literally a life that you've grown into, and part of the reason you were able to get through those 3 days of questioning is because you have worked so much. So I just feel like there's, there are people that are listening that are, just at the beginning of their journey as you are.
Can I speak to that?
Please.
All right. So everything Josh is saying is spot on. When I first started, I didn't really know what it was all about. I remember, which was kind of a blessing in disguise at times. It was very hard too. I'm bringing this up for people who are starting as well, whether their feet are really wet through a conservatory or just from life experience or fairly new. But I remember Josh watching me dance, and I was like doing a dime stop that I was working on, and then I was actually like doing it efficiently in my own way, and I was expressing myself, and Josh was like, yo, teach me that. And immediately I saw the same hunger in Josh in that I was at the time unaware of how I had in such quantity, and he ignited me to keep exploring, in a sense, just by him exploring. Josh didn't have to learn all this. Josh doesn't have to do any of that, and he was all about it. He was always ready to exponentially grow. And I think the reason growth is essential and almost a life force for Josh is because it comes, I think growth can come from, like I said before, loving it more than the fear of failing at it. Also from purity. I believe purity produces exponential growth. And for those who are starting first, it was not easy for me, man. I had no idea. And I was coming into a show with greats. I wasn't coming into a show with like people who didn't know what they were doing. I was coming to the
In
show
the Heights off Broadway. PS.
in the
That's what
Heights
we're trying
off
to do.
Broadway, coming into the show with greats. And little did I know, let me give you an example that no one even knows about. I'm in the audition room for off Broadway in the Heights, okay? And I already sang. I was doing Sunny and Usnavi. I sang and I was acting. Mind you, I'm not in rooms. They just sent me material. I learned it and I went and did it. And then I go into the dance call and I'm freestyling in the back. And Balderrama's like, yo, what are you doing? So I start teaching Balderrama in my audition. And then I start having a partner, Joey Dowling, who's like 6 inches taller than me. And I've never partnered in my life. But in the moment, I was ready to grow. I was desiring to grow immediately. And that being said, you mentioned something about where creators might have blocks. I'm bringing this up as well because you're creators right now. You're probably going, I don't have the help. I don't have the collaboration. I don't have the drive, or I don't have the facility. I'm like, my dude, neither do I. And what does keep me going is going, when I look back, will I know that I gave all I had to become the best of me, which equals that growth life? That is what that is. It's not saying fulfill an expectation. It's saying fulfill your potential. And the only stability that you truly have isn't the finances, it isn't the connections, it really is your effort. And hopefully the universe will respond to that and supply the other things that we long for. And yet if they don't, can your effort illuminate? And that is what I've been sticking to at all times whenever something is in my mind.
I can't. I mean, that's so well said, and I do believe that if we're in this long enough, I think the universe will actually conspire to line these things up. I mean, the fact that we're talking right now, we haven't spoken for maybe a couple years, but you sent something. You sent out a signal. I call it a growth life signal, and I caught it, and I was like, oh, boom! We jumped in there, and we've been collaborating like
immediately.
1999. You know what I mean? So I look, I want to respect time, but I just want to say thank you for sharing so openly and so freely with people who are just starting out in their careers, people who are 10 years in, 20 years in. We all need these checkups. We need to ask ourselves why. We need to continue this conversation of how we're doing it, how we're growing artistically.
And to be, if you are still having trouble, people who are looking to create, I mean, a text from Josh could be a catalyst to create the gem that made you laugh, that could possibly be something later on. Perhaps your offerings can be for those who are sending you signals. Perhaps it's different steps. But please know, this is a crazy time, and yet, I'm going to go a little deeper. I asked my friend once, I said, do you think having a baby sometimes can be selfish? That's what I asked him.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, bro, this human race is going on with or without you. So, do you want to bring someone into this world that will leave it better off? And I said, okay, well, that stifled any doubt I ever had about having a child. I always wanted a child, but I was wondering to myself, am I doing it just so that, to do it, or did I want to do it from I come from a very complicated, parents immigrated home. So, I was just always wondering, when is the right time, or how do I go about it, And then how I bring this back to what we were saying, you have an offering to the world: COVID, pre-quarantine, post-quarantine, during quarantine, life. If you don't offer who you are, do you think the world would be better off? Or is the world going to be better if you offer who you are?
That is the question. And I think that is that is a gem right there. That I think we can go out on that Q gem. I hope you all are asking yourselves that question. I appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks, man. I'm so grateful. I appreciate you, bro.
All right, brother.
Later.